Does grassroots organizing have the power to hold governments and corporations accountable for genocide? And where does the U.S. labor movement stand today? This week on UpFront, I'll be speaking to activist and founder of the Amazon Labor Union, Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls, thanks so much for joining me on UpFront.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, 5 years ago, you became famous for your grassroots union campaign organizing. You took on a giant, Amazon. You've now emerged as an advocate for Palestinian rights. Since October 7th, you've been speaking very loudly and bravely against the genocide in Gaza. What's the connection there? How did labor organizing lead you to become an advocate for Palestine?
Yeah, you know, as a trade unionist, it is our responsibility to be a shield to the working class. I understood that when I was fighting for Amazon workers, understanding that connecting the struggles, connecting the dots with the working class doesn't exclude the liberation of Palestinians. One of the models that I stand by is a model that's well known in the labor movement. Injury to one is an injury to all. And understanding that Amazon has a lot to do with this genocide was one of the reasons why I wanted to heavily get involved. They invested $7.2 billion into a project called Project Nimbus, which is the intelligence that's being used to target and surveil innocent Palestinians every day. And for me, organizing against Amazon, connecting the dots by getting on the previous mission, the flotilla, was something that I wanted to do to shine a bright light on labor and also spread awareness to our community. Let us know that our taxpaying dollars are going towards this endless genocide that needs to be stopped.
So you talk about Amazon's direct investments in Palestinian suffering, but then there's also a kind of bigger, maybe more abstract argument, which is that Palestinian liberation and working class liberation are somehow tied together. I've heard you speak to that a little bit. Can you say more about what that means?
Yeah, you know, I had the privilege of doing a panel discussion with Dr. Mustafa Bourgadi, and he laid out the history.
Very prominent Palestinian voice.
Yeah, and he laid out the history of the resistance movement, and he also invited me to go to Palestine. This was before October 7th. But then the week of October 7th, I happened to be in Berlin, Germany, which is one of the largest Palestinian diasporas outside of Palestine, with about 30 to 40,000 of them that reside there. And I've seen with my own two eyes, along with my comrades out there, how they kettled in the community. They tore down flags, they suppressed the speech. They were basically telling us that we couldn't even say the word Free Palestine. I saw how they pulled their children away from their parents. They used the paddy wagon system. They lined Palestinians up and they arrested them. And I shared that experience when I came back to America. And overnight I lost thousands of followers of people who said they supported me for Amazon, but this is where they draw the line. And to myself, I said, that's a familiar feeling, you know.
How so?
You know, when people saw me organizing against Amazon, which they deemed as unorganizable, they thought that it wasn't going to be successful. But how we were able to be a $2.2 trillion company was by bringing people together. And that's the same thing that's going to happen with this movement. Palestinian and the people of Gaza have shown the world what we have to do right now in these times. We have to come together as people.
I see you got a lot of tattoos, but there's a fresh one on your hand there. It says Hamdallah in Arabic, which is a very famous Palestinian cartoon, but it's also the name of the flotilla that you were on. In July, you joined the Gaza Freedom Flotilla, which aims to break the Israeli blockade, to deliver aid, and to help establish a kind of a humanitarian corridor into Gaza. Your ship was intercepted by the Israeli military, but you got singled out. You got assaulted, you got arrested, you got jailed. Why did that happen?
Yeah, you know, several reasons why I joined this mission. This initiative has been going on for over 17 years. The Hamdallah was flotilla number 37. And once again, as a trade unionist, as a black man, as a American taxpaying citizen, I definitely knew I had to connect the dots. Once again, showing that the U.S. labor movement is very complicit by not passing any resolutions since October 7th. Spreading awareness to even the black community, being the only black passenger on board out of the 21 of us, 19 activists, 2 journalists. And the last thing, just knowing that how many billions of dollars went towards this genocide that killed, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, was one of the main reasons why we all should be outraged, and we shouldn't have to do these flotilla missions. But yeah, I knew the risk of being a black man. I knew that I was going up against one of the most dangerous, merciless, ruthless armies in the world. And throughout my entire experience, I knew that I only experienced just a glimpse of what Palestinians have to go through every day.
You said of that experience that your 37 years of being a black man in the United States didn't prepare you, and certainly didn't compare, you say, to what you experienced for 5 days inside of an Israeli prison. That one, I gotta say, it threw me a little bit. Talk to me about what that means to you. How'd you come to that realization?
Well, I mean, like any other black man in America, I've dealt with racism in several different ways, even being incarcerated from organizing against Amazon, being arrested, thrown in prison for my organizing efforts several times. And also, having to live in the tri-state area, having to go through the stop and frisk on my way to work, just being a black man, being in the wrong place, wrong time, or, just being a black man in general, dealing with different aspects. But when I got to Israel, the hatred that they had for black and brown people was resonating from them to the point where, the things that I experienced myself, personally, they threw me to the ground. They put their knee in my back. They choked me with my jewelry. They told me to shut up repeatedly. They threw me up against the wall face first. They separated me from my crew. And they said some things that said that was definitely regarding to my skin color, saying they're nothing like me. They're not my brother. They're nothing like us. And I knew, even when I couldn't really understand all of the language that they were speaking, but you understand emotions, you understand facial expressions, and you can just feel the amount of hatred that they had for us coming over there and trying to, break the siege. And my entire experience from the beginning to the end was definitely racially motivated, because not only was the assault that happened to me I was the only one to be assaulted, but I was in there the longest, along with my Arab brother Hatem from Tunisia. We were there for 5 days. Everybody else was deported before us, our white counterparts, and they were also deported through Tel Aviv airport. With us specifically, they dropped us off at the border of Jordan, something they've never done before. So from the very beginning to the very end, everything they've done, from lying to us, lying to me specifically, telling me to get dressed, knowing I wasn't going home, to weaponizing food, knowing I was on the hunger strike, to raiding me twice, having us stripped naked for no reason, knowing we couldn't smuggle anything, and then keeping us on 24/7 lockdown. And keeping us separated from the other prisoners who happen to be Palestinians and Ethiopians. Everything I saw and experienced was racially motivated, for sure.
There's been unified grassroots labor organizing in Europe against Israel's genocide in Gaza, including a nationwide strike in Italy last month. There's been efforts from European dock workers to block ports and stop arms shipments to Israel. These things, in the minds of many, are important, but how important are these actions? And do you think this type of collective organizing is enough to pressure governments to stop supporting genocide?
Oh yeah, 100%. A lot of those dock workers are friends of mine. Those are people I met in my journey. The dock workers in Greece, the dock workers in Italy, the dock workers that pledged in France and Europe as well. And we need to see that here in the U.S. That's what's missing. U.S. labor movement, once again, has been complicit, even actively fighting against resolutions that support Palestine. Yeah. And if our dock workers did the same as our brothers and sisters overseas, we wouldn't see a genocide.
Well, why haven't we seen the U.S. labor movement move at the same scale as we've seen in Europe? Again, American workers and unions have organized, but not the same scale. Why?
They're letting politics lead their organizations. Unfortunately, this is a bipartisan genocide, and a lot of these labor unions endorse these parties that support genocide. We just saw with the last election, the presidential election, all of the labor unions endorse the two-party system, whether it's left or right, and that right there is a disconnect itself by the working class. obviously the two-party system is not working for us. And unfortunately, the countries that we're talking about that are able to shut down their ports, they have a multi-party government, they have a multi-party system, and their labor unions are way more militant than we ever are. You know, here in America, union density is less than 6% in the private sector, less than 10% in the public sector. We have to organize, and if we don't organize, we're going to continue to see the same thing, the same results.
You were fired from your job at Amazon in 2020 after leading a walkout to protest the unsafe working conditions that existed during the pandemic. Amazon claimed that you violated the COVID-19 quarantine protocols. You then became the face of a historic union drive. You co-founded and served as president of the first and only Amazon union in the United States. You went from having no organizing experience to defeating one of the biggest, wealthiest, and most powerful companies in the world. That seemed impossible until you did it. How did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, people ask me that a lot, and I tell them, you know, I wasn't an organizer, and I love telling my story. You know, I wasn't an organizer, I wasn't an activist, I wasn't even aspiring to be that. I was just trying to protect my workers. Somebody who worked with them 67 hours a week. These people are my extended family. And for me to speak up during COVID-19, during this deadly virus, when New York City was the epicenter of the world, was only my initiative at first to try to protect workers. Unfortunately, Amazon doubled down by firing me, and when they said to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts, you know, I said that's a good idea, you know, because I knew I was always a modeled employee. I knew I was very popular in the building. I opened up 3 warehouses in the tri-state area, and those skill sets that I had, it just carried over to organizing. And yeah, back in my day, I used to be a rapper. I used to be an independent artist, so always was a people's person. Always was somebody in the community that a lot of people knew, and I guess you could say when they fired me, that's really what got me started with organizing.
Yeah.
And
they created a monster and didn't realize it.
Yeah, you know, once again, when people ask me how did we beat a $2.2 trillion company, I say the power of people when we come together. You know?
Talk to me about that, because the Amazon Labor Union, which is now affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, won their election at the Staten Island warehouses back in 2022. But despite that victory, Amazon still refuses to play ball. They won't negotiate. They've poured millions of dollars into thwarting labor organizing. What impact can organizing have if Amazon can retaliate largely with impunity?
Yeah, I mean, we have to understand that with this administration, the first thing Trump did was attack the labor board. No brainer. He wants to destroy, dismantle the only safety net that workers have in this country on a national level, the NLRB. But even under the Biden administration, the National Labor Relations Board was already understaffed, already underfunded. And this is something that's been going on as an issue in this country for decades. You can pretty much say since the 60s. And unfortunately, when you're talking about a company like Amazon that has millions of dollars to spend on holding things up in court, 3 years after our victory, we don't have a bargaining order to even bargain with the company. So unfortunately, without a contract, without a bargaining order, the only thing workers can do is go on strike. And the reason why I affiliated this independent union with the International Brotherhoods of Teamsters, because they have those type of resources. They have $300 million in strike funds. They have 1.5 million members strong. And they can give us the muscle that we need to organize a type of strike that we need. And for the first time last year, we kind of nudged at it by calling a nationwide Amazon strike. It made a lot of attention, got a lot of Amazon workers on board. And we're going to continue to organize until we're able to shut down operations to get our first contract.
Tech giants like Amazon and Google hold billion-dollar contracts with the Israeli military. And since October 7th, they've deepened those ties even more. But after years of employee protests, Microsoft recently cut off Israel from software that was being used to surveil Palestinians. Talk to me about the significance of that move. What more would it take for U.S. companies to be held accountable for profiting and contributing even to the suffering and the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to labor. You know, the Microsoft workers who decide to take action, this is the best direct action, withholding your labor. And whether you're a tech worker or whether you're a warehouse worker or a dock worker, we all have a role to play. And we're seeing that, once again, overseas, referring to our brothers and sisters overseas, with these trade unions that are already took on a direct action by shutting down the ports. We have to do the same here in the U.S. We have to follow suit. If not, we should be leading the way. You know, this country right here, obviously there's been a lot of labor victories in the recent times, including the Amazon labor union, but on a broader level, the major labor unions in this country, they have a significant role to play right now when it comes to being on the right side of history. I don't think they want to be remembered as the trade union movement that didn't do anything during this, this massacre that we're witnessing every day for the last 2 years.
You've been outspoken about the ways that Amazon is tied up in the U.S. military-industrial complex. You've also called Amazon, quote, modern-day slavery.
Yeah.
I want to extend this beyond just Amazon. What role do these large corporations play in upholding and advancing systems of oppression?
Well, we all should know this by now, but a lot of people don't. That people don't understand that in order to become a billionaire, you have to exploit a class of people. And when we're talking about these tech giants like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar from Google, in order for them to be that rich, it's because of black and brown, indigenous, immigrant people going to work for them every day, and they're making and reaping the benefits of our labor. And once again, we have to understand the value of our work as a working class. I think the pandemic showed us that. We weren't able to go to work. The economy was at a standstill. And if we don't go to work and get the economy going, the billionaire class can't do our jobs for us. So just understanding that workers have the right to shut down and really control their destiny is something that we have to continue to advocate for. Organizing is the only way that we're going to see a better future. There's no cavalry coming to save the working class. We have to do it ourselves.
How hard is it to do that resistance work in the era of Donald Trump? Since being reelected president, Donald Trump has cracked down on the U.S. labor movement significantly. He's attacked federal workers, he's stripped labor laws, he's gutted the National Labor Relations Board, and he's attempted to roll back collective bargaining rights. In the midst of all of that, people are trying to assess the relationship between Trump's presidency and the possibilities of organizing for, worker rights and worker freedom. How hard is it to do it if Trump's president?
You can't worry about who's president. It's really just up to community leaders to stay focused on their mission in their own communities. For me personally, Trump was the president when we were organizing Amazon, 5 years ago. So for me, it's a little different. I don't see the presidency, or whoever the president is, being a reason why we can't do the work. And I understand that every day there's a distraction, but that's what it is. It's just a distraction to me. You're going to turn on the news every day and see something that Trump is doing that's outrageous. And if you're focused on that, then you lose focus on what you have to fight for. And so for me, I always look for an alternative solution. And that's something that I learned even from working at Amazon. When I decided to fight back and organize a union and organize against them, one of their principles was disagree, have a backbone, and commit. And you can disagree, that's the easy part. You can have a backbone to stand up, speak up, but the commitment to seeing it through is the hard part. And that's what we have to do as activists, as community leaders. We have to stay committed to our people and committed to our fight. We can't worry about who's in office.
Yeah.
And that's the real issue here is we're dealing with a system, whether it's on the left or the right, that doesn't work for the working class in general, and that includes migrant, immigrant, refugees, anybody. We have to we have to escape the two-party system, in my opinion, you know, and that's...
Well, you've been talking about that a lot, this
Yeah.
idea of escaping the two-party system. In fact, you've talked about relaunching the U.S. Labor Party for that very reason.
Absolutely.
You've drawn inspiration from socialist movements around the world.
Yeah.
What type of political system do you envision in the United States? What kind of future do you want to build?
Well, once again, as my journeys took me around the world to visit other countries, seeing that there's labor parties, there's socialist parties, there's green parties, there's multi-party governments where labor unions have direct access to these parties, these party leaders, and the working class have access to these party leaders. Understanding that in our country, once again, union density is in the gutter, less than 6% in the private sector, less than 10% in the public sector, and it's still in a decline every day. And I'll go to a country in Europe where they have 90% union density, and you know, workers have to be forced to take a two-month holiday and a 3-day work week, and they have universal health care, they have, you know, like a low crime rate, they have 0% homelessness, and see all of these things possible and understand that, you know, we're being duped here in America. We've been duped here for a very long time. And I'm 37 years old. It didn't take me that long to figure this out. But unfortunately, 70% of Americans don't even have a passport. So they don't even understand what it is. When they leave the country, they'll see the things that are night and day that's different. And what I'm trying to do with the party that I'm trying to revitalize, we once had a labor party, but it was dissolved by the two-party system. What I'm trying to do with this party is incorporate all these policies that I've seen and learned from around the world, meeting world leaders, meeting other presidents from other countries, and meeting other governments and trying to understand, like, what do they have that we don't have here in America, and try to bring that here.
What's the biggest thing that we don't have here that we need to bring here?
We could go right over the border to Canada and have an open heart surgery for $0. And I think that's crazy to say that. You know, I just came from Detroit this past weekend, and 20 minutes away is somewhere where I have universal health care, and I can see it with my own 2 eyes. And then here in America, you know, everybody's in medical debt. People don't have access to medical care. And even working at Amazon, the #1 company in the country for injuries is Amazon. Seeing ambulance pull up to my building every week, every day, picking up black and brown people. Seeing people have passed away from working at these warehouses, working these type of jobs, and understanding even during the pandemic how we mishandled the COVID-19 response. It's just amazing to me that we still have countries like Cuba on the terrorist list, but they handle COVID-19 the best. They have the best medical doctors that go around the world and help other countries out, even though they face, you know, inhumane conditions. And it's just amazing to me how we don't. Well, then again, it's by design that we don't see these things. So once again, my job as a trade unionist, as somebody who's supposed to be a voice and a shield for the working class, is trying to connect these dots.
You mentioned the pandemic. During the pandemic, the United States saw a surge in labor organizing, including first ever unions being formed in companies like Starbucks, grocery chains. We saw historic strikes in industries like healthcare, hospitality, even Hollywood. Does that give you hope when you see that kind of momentum?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I mean, I was blessed to be on the front lines with a lot of these different movements, even during the time, because it was around the same time we were organizing Amazon. So it was a powerful movement at that time, a resurgence in the labor movement, for sure. Our victory was something that hasn't been done in over 100 years, in a generation. And the history that we have resonated with millions of workers, not just here in America, but around the world. And that's why I've been fortunate enough to travel around the world, meet with other Amazon workers in other countries, help them with their campaigns. We just seen now in Canada, they unionized for the first time in history. The UK is following up. So it's a beautiful thing that, you know, that we have this international solidarity going on. But also, there's also a missed opportunity that we have to fix and, I guess you could say, correct course right now, is that these victories inspired millions of people in this country, but once again, labor unions have failed to meet the moment by not organizing the way they should to incorporate people that's not in unions.
Chris Moss, thank you so much for joining me on UpFront.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.